My name is Ethan Carter, and almost everyone at Carter Group thinks I'm a nobody. That's exactly how I wanted it. For 3 years, I kept my real identity hidden. I answered phones, carried files, and accepted every small task without complaint. My grandfather wanted me to understand the company from the ground up before I inherited anything. I agreed because I also wanted to know one thing. Would anyone love me without my family's money? I believe my wife, Sophia, already had that answer. I was wrong. That evening, I adjusted my cheap tie before entering the company anniversary party. Music filled the ballroom, and expensive suits surrounded me. Sophia stood near the stage wearing a sparkling red dress. She looked beautiful. When she noticed me, her smile disappeared. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I work here too," I replied quietly. She sighed. "Please don't embarrass me tonight. I only came because everyone was invited." Ryan Brooks walked over with a glass of champagne. He placed one arm around Sophia's shoulder without caring that I was standing there. "There he is," Ryan said with a grin. "Our hard-working office assistant." I forced a smile. "Good evening." Ryan laughed, still wearing bargain store suits. "It's clean," I answered. Sophia shook her head. "Ethan, Ryan closed another huge deal today. Maybe you should ask him how successful people live." Ryan smirked. "First lesson? Stop dreaming above your level." Several co-workers laughed. I felt my face grow warm, but I stayed calm. "I'm happy for your success," I said. Ryan stepped closer. "You're too soft. That's why people walk over you." Sophia crossed her arms. "He's right," she said. "You never fight for anything." "I fight differently." She rolled her eyes. "No, Ethan, you just accept losing." Her words hurt more than Ryan's. A co-worker raised a glass. "Speech. Ryan deserves one." Ryan smiled proudly. "I couldn't have done it without an amazing team," he said before looking at Sophia. "Some people inspire greatness." Sophia smiled back. "And some people," Ryan continued while staring at me, "only remind us what failure looks like." The room filled with awkward laughter. I wanted to leave. Instead, I took a slow breath. My grandfather had always told me, power means nothing if you lose control of yourself. So I stayed silent. Sophia leaned closer. "Why are you still standing here?" "Because you're my wife." She looked away before answering. "Not tonight." Those 2 words hit harder than anything else she had said. I lowered my eyes, hiding the pain growing inside me as the music continued playing around us. Nobody noticed my silence, except one woman quietly watching from across the crowded ballroom. The woman walked toward me with calm, steady steps. She wore a navy business suit and carried herself with quiet confidence. "Are you Ethan Carter?" she asked. "Yes. I'm Olivia Grant. I oversee human resources." "I know who you are." She glanced toward Sophia and Ryan. "Are you all right?" I smiled weakly. "I've had better evenings. They were unnecessarily cruel. I'll survive." Olivia studied my face for a moment. "You don't seem angry." I learned a long time ago that anger usually creates more problems than solutions. That's an unusual answer. My grandfather says patience reveals people's true character. She nodded. "He's a wise man." "I think so." Before either of us could continue, Ryan called across the room. "Ethan, stop bothering the HR director. She's too important to waste time on assistants." More laughter followed. Olivia frowned. "He shouldn't speak to you like that." "I can't control his words." "No," she replied, "but he can control his manners." Sophia looked at me with clear annoyance. "Ethan, just go home." I looked into her eyes. "Is that what you really want?" "Yes." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "All right." I turned and walked toward the exit without another word. Every step felt heavier than the last, but I refused to look back. If Sophia wanted to pretend I didn't matter, I would not beg her to see my worth. Outside, the cool night air filled my lungs. The city lights blurred as I fought the sting behind my eyes. Then my phone rang. The screen displayed a familiar name. Charles Bennett. I answered immediately. "Good evening, Charles." "Good evening, Ethan. I apologize for calling so late." "It's all right. Is everything okay?" "There has been a change." My heart skipped. "What kind of change?" "Your grandfather moved tomorrow's board meeting forward." The directors agreed unanimously. I stood perfectly still. So it's happening? Yes. Charles's voice became firm. Tomorrow morning, you will officially become Chief Executive Officer of Carter Group. I closed my eyes. After 3 years of hiding, waiting, and enduring every insult without revealing who I truly was, everything was about to change. Charles spoke again. Your grandfather asked me to remind you of one thing. What was that? He said, walk into that room with dignity, never with revenge. A small smile finally appeared on my face. Understand. I ended the call and looked back at the glowing ballroom windows one last time. Inside, everyone still believed I was the man they could laugh at. By sunrise, none of them would know how to face me. Morning came faster than I expected, but I acted as though nothing had changed. I dressed for work, poured 2 cups of coffee, and placed one in front of Sophia. You're up early, I said. She barely looked at me. I have extra work today. You worked late yesterday, too. Our department is busy. I nodded. I hope you aren't pushing yourself too hard. She forced a smile. I'll be fine. There was no warmth in her voice anymore. Months earlier, I would have ignored that feeling in my chest. Today, I couldn't. At the office, Ryan walked past my desk. Ethan, he said with a grin, don't stay too late tonight. Some of us have important meetings. I'll remember that. He laughed. I doubt you will. Sophia appeared moments later. Ryan, are we still meeting the client after work? Of course. She smiled. I'll be ready. Neither of them looked at me. The entire day felt strange. Every glance they shared lasted a little too long. Every quiet conversation ended when I walked near them. I realized I had been making excuses for both of them for months. Maybe I simply hadn't wanted the truth. That evening, Sophia picked up her purse. I'll be home late. Client dinner? Yes. What restaurant? She hesitated. I don't remember the name. I smiled gently. Drive safely. You too. She walked away without another word. Something inside me refused to let the question die. I grabbed my jacket and left 5 minutes later. Traffic was light, making it easy to follow her car from a distance. Instead of turning toward the business district, she drove downtown. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. Please, I whispered to myself. Give me one reason to believe you. She stopped outside one of the city's most expensive hotels. A black sports car pulled beside her. Ryan stepped out first. He wasn't carrying a laptop. He wasn't dressed for a business dinner. He opened Sophia's door with a smile. She laughed. Not the polite laugh she gave co-workers. The real one. The laugh I hadn't heard at home in months. Ryan reached for her hand. She let him. I stayed frozen inside my car. No, I whispered. They walked through the hotel entrance together. I waited several seconds before following them inside. The marble lobby echoed with soft music and quiet conversations. I kept enough distance so they wouldn't notice me. Ryan leaned close to Sophia. I booked the private suite. She smiled. You think of everything. I only think about you. She touched his arm. I knew choosing you was the right decision. Those words drained every bit of hope I still carried. I followed them toward the elevators, keeping my head lowered while my heart pounded harder with every step. When the elevator doors closed, I hurried toward the nearby staircase, determined to learn the truth I had spent months refusing to see. I climbed the stairs as quietly as I could. I reached the second floor just before they disappeared into a private lounge. The door remained slightly open. I stopped outside and listened. Ryan, when will everything finally belong to us? Sophia asked. Soon, Ryan replied. The board already sees me as the future CEO. Once I get that position, you'll never have to pretend again. She laughed. Pretending to love Ethan has been exhausting. My breathing stopped. Ryan chuckled. Does he suspect anything? Not all, she said. He's a useless husband with no future. He believes every lie I tell. And after the promotion, I'll file for divorce. Why stay with someone who can't give me the life I deserve? Ryan answered, you'll have everything. Money, status, travel, luxury. I'll make sure of it. I closed my eyes. Every word cut deeper than the last. For one foolish moment, I wanted to burst into the room and demand answers. Instead, I remember my grandfather's voice. Never make life-changing decisions while angry. I stepped backward until I reached the empty hallway. I won't beg anymore, I whispered. If she wants to leave, I'll let her. I walked back to my car without looking behind. The pain remained, but something inside me had changed. Later that evening, I drove to my grandfather's estate. William Carter was waiting on the porch. "You look different," he said. I finally saw the truth. He nodded slowly. "Does it hurt?" "More than I expected." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "Pain passes. Character remains. I don't want revenge." "Good. I just want to stop pretending." "Then it's time." We entered his study. Charles Bennett placed several documents on the desk. "Everything is ready," Charles said. My grandfather picked up a pen. "Ethan, are you prepared to carry this responsibility?" "Yes." "Not because of anger?" "No, because I finally know who I am." He smiled proudly and signed every page. "From this moment, Carter Group belongs to you." I signed beside his name. Charles gathered the documents carefully. "The board will meet tomorrow morning." I took a slow breath. "So will my old life end?" My grandfather looked into my eyes. "No, Ethan, your real life begins tomorrow." Far across the city, Ryan probably celebrated the promotion he believed was already his. He had no idea that every decision about his future now belonged to me. I left the estate feeling strangely calm. My marriage was broken, but my spirit was no longer chained to lies. I would face Sophia, Ryan, and every board member without fear. They believed I was the weakest man in the company. By tomorrow, they would discover that silence had never meant weakness. It had only been patience, and patience had finally brought me to the moment where truth would speak for itself. I started my car, looked toward the dark skyline, and whispered, "No more hiding. No more begging. Tomorrow I walk in with my head high, and nobody will ever laugh at me again." From now, I arrived at Carter Group before sunrise. Instead of wearing my usual cheap office clothes, I stood in front of the mirror wearing a tailored navy suit my grandfather had prepared months earlier. For the first time since joining the company, I looked like the man I had always been. Charles Bennett adjusted his tie and smiled. "You look ready. I hope I feel ready soon." "You already are." I nodded slowly. "Let's finish this." We entered the executive floor together. Employees stopped talking as I walked past them. One whispered, "Who's that?" Another replied, "He looks familiar." I kept walking without answering. Outside the boardroom, my grandfather, William Carter, greeted me with a warm smile. "Good morning, Ethan." "Good morning, grandfather." "Any regrets?" "Only one." "What is it?" I waited too long to believe in myself. He rested a hand on my shoulder. "Today changes everything." The boardroom doors remained closed while directors continued arriving. I noticed Ryan walking down the hallway with Sophia beside him. Ryan laughed loudly. "I told you this promotion was already mine." Sophia squeezed his arm. "I never doubted you." Ryan noticed me standing near the entrance. His smile disappeared for only a second before returning. "Ethan, good morning." He looked me up and down. "That's an expensive suit. It fits well." He laughed. "Trying to impress someone?" "Maybe." Sophia frowned. "Why are you even on this floor?" "I was invited." Ryan smirked. "Assistants don't attend board meetings." "I'll manage." He shook his head. "You really don't know your place." Before I could answer, Charles stepped forward. "Mr. Brooks, the meeting will begin shortly." Ryan grinned confidently. "I've been looking forward to it." "So have I," I replied. Sophia folded her arms. "Ethan, don't embarrass yourself." "I have no intention of doing that." She sighed. "Then leave before security asks questions." My grandfather opened the boardroom doors. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "please take your seats." Ryan walked inside first. Sophia followed proudly. I entered last. The room contained a long, polished table surrounded by senior executives. Daniel Hayes, the oldest board member, greeted my grandfather. "Chairman Carter, shall we begin?" In just a moment, everyone took their seats. Ryan confidently chose the chair closest to the head of the table. He leaned toward Sophia and whispered, "Watch this." She smiled proudly. I remained standing near the entrance. Ryan looked at me again. "Ethan, there's no seat for assistants." Several executives chuckled. I calmly answered, "I'll stand until the chairman tells me otherwise." Ryan shrugged. "Suit yourself." The room slowly became silent. My grandfather looked around the table before speaking. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I focused on him. The purpose of today's emergency meeting is to announce the future leadership of Carter Group. Ryan straightened his tie and smiled with complete confidence, already believing the company belonged to him. My grandfather looked toward me. Ethan, please come forward. I walked calmly to the head of the table. Ryan frowned. What is he doing? Sophia whispered. Maybe he's delivering documents. I stopped beside my grandfather. He smiled proudly. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce my grandson, Ethan Carter. Several executives exchanged confused looks. Daniel Hayes stood slowly. So this is the heir? Yes, my grandfather replied. Effective today, Ethan becomes the majority shareholder and the new chief executive officer of Carter Group. Silence filled the room. Sophia's face lost every trace of color. Ryan laughed loudly. This has to be a joke. Charles Bennett stepped forward carrying a leather folder. It is not a joke. Ryan shook his head. Show me proof. Charles placed several documents on the table. These are the signed ownership transfers, board approvals, and succession papers. Daniel Hayes examined them carefully. Everything is legal. Another executive nodded. I recognize every signature. Charles looked directly at Ryan. The appointment became official last night. Ryan stared at me. You're the owner? I am. But you worked as an assistant. Yes. Why? I wanted people to judge me by my character. Nobody spoke. Ryan's confidence disappeared. He swallowed hard. Mr. Carter. Ethan. I didn't know. You're right. I never meant to disrespect you. You insulted me almost every day. I was only joking. It never sounded like a joke. Sophia finally found her voice. Ethan, please let me explain. I looked toward the projector instead of her. The meeting should continue. She stood halfway from her chair. I didn't know who you really were. That isn't the problem. It changes everything. No. Her eyes filled with tears. I made mistakes. We all do. Please listen. I'm listening to the board today. Olivia Grant quietly watched from across the room. She looked from me to Sophia, then back again. I could almost see her remembering every insult she had witnessed at the party. My grandfather addressed everyone. From this moment forward, all departments will report directly to our new CEO. Daniel Hayes smiled. Congratulations, Mr. Carter. Thank you. One by one, the executives welcomed me. Ryan remained frozen. Finally, he stood. I sincerely apologized for my behavior. I met his eyes. I accept your apology. Relief crossed his face for one brief second. Then I continued. Acceptance doesn't erase consequences. His shoulders dropped. The room became silent again. I opened the meeting agenda. Let's begin reviewing company performance. Nobody questioned my authority. Nobody laughed. Nobody called me an assistant again. As directors presented reports, I listened carefully and asked thoughtful questions. For the first time since joining Carter Group, people respected my voice instead of mocking it. I never raised my tone or celebrated my victory. Quiet confidence spoke louder than revenge ever could. While Sophia struggled to meet my eyes and Ryan sat in defeated silence, I realized something important. My greatest victory wasn't exposing them. It was proving to myself that I had never been the weak man they believed I was. My silence had protected my dignity until truth finally arrived. My first week as CEO passed faster than I expected. Every department submitted reports directly to me. Instead of making emotional decisions, I reviewed every file carefully. One afternoon, Olivia Grant knocked on my office door. Do you have a minute? Always. She entered carrying several folders. I found something unusual. What is it? Anonymous complaints against Ryan Brooks. I looked at the documents. How many? 7. All different employees? Yes. I opened the first file. Fake expense claims. Olivia nodded. There are more. I turned another page. Vendor favoritism. Keep reading. The next report mentioned intimidation, altered invoices, and missing company funds. I leaned back. Has internal audit reviewed these? Not yet. Why? The previous management ignored every complaint. I closed the folder. That changes today. Olivia smiled slightly. I hope you would say that. I picked up the phone. Please ask internal audit to meet me immediately. Within 30 minutes, the audit manager entered my office. "Good afternoon, Mr. Carter. Please sit." She nodded. "I'm Grace Miller. Thank you for coming, Grace." Olivia handed her the complaint files. "I want every claim investigated." Grace looked surprised. "Every single one? Without exception? What if senior managers become involved? I don't care who appears in those reports." She smiled. "Then we'll begin today. Keep everything confidential. You have my word." After they left, I stared through the office window. For years, people believed power meant protecting friends. I intended to prove the opposite. 2 days later, Olivia returned. "The preliminary audit is finished." "What do they find?" She placed another folder on my desk. "Worse than we expected." I opened it. There are forged signatures. Yes. Personal vacations charged as business trips. Yes. Payments to fake suppliers. Confirmed. I closed the folder slowly. So every complaint was true. Olivia nodded. "I'm afraid so." I remained silent for several moments. Finally, I said, "Schedule a disciplinary meeting." "Tomorrow morning?" "Yes." The next morning, Ryan entered my office confidently. "You wanted to see me?" "I did." He smiled. "I assume this is about my promotion." "No." His smile faded. "What is it then?" I slid the audit report across my desk. "Please explain these expenses." He glanced at the papers. "There must be a misunderstanding." "Is there?" "Accounting made mistakes." "Did accounting also forge signatures?" Ryan's expression changed. I don't know. Did accounting invent suppliers too?" He stayed silent. I folded my hands. "I'm giving you one opportunity." "To do what?" "Tell me the truth." He avoided my eyes. "I've done nothing wrong." Before I could answer, Olivia entered carrying another folder. "We found additional evidence." Ryan looked from her to me. For the first time since I had known him, confidence disappeared from his face. He realized excuses were running out, and the truth was closing in faster than he had ever imagined. Ryan cleared his throat. "This proves nothing." I looked at Olivia. "Please continue." She opened the folder. "We recovered deleted emails, false reimbursement forms, and bank transfers connected to fake vendors." Ryan shook his head. "Someone set me up." I asked who. I don't know. "You approved every payment." I trusted my staff. Olivia placed printed emails before him. "These came from your account." His hands started shaking. "I can explain." "Please do." He stayed silent. I pressed the intercom. "Security, please come to my office." Ryan stepped forward. "Ethan, don't do this. I warned you to tell the truth. I made mistakes. You committed fraud." 2 security officers entered. I nodded toward Ryan. "Escort Mr. Brooks from the building. His employment is terminated immediately." Ryan looked desperate. "You can't ruin my life." I didn't ruin it. He lowered his head. I did. The officers escorted him outside without another word. After the door closed, Olivia sighed. "That couldn't have been easy." It wasn't. You stayed calm. I promised myself I wouldn't let anger make my decisions. She smiled. "That's why this company finally has the right leader." Later that afternoon, Human Resources delivered another report. Sophia's recent promotion had bypassed company policy. I called her into my office. She entered slowly. "You wanted to see me?" "Yes." I handed her the report. "Your promotion has been canceled." Her eyes widened. "Because of Ryan?" "Because company rules matter. I earned that position. The investigation shows otherwise." She looked at me with tears forming. "Can we talk somewhere private?" "This is private." "No. About us." I remained quiet. "Please, Ethan. There's nothing left to discuss. I never stopped loving you." I met her eyes. "That isn't true." I was confused. "You made choices. I thought money would make me happy. And did it?" She looked down. "No." She reached across my desk. "I know I hurt you." "Yes. I'll do anything to fix this." "You can't change what happened. Please give me another chance." I slowly removed my hand from hers. "I've already made my decision." "What decision?" "I filed for divorce this morning." She froze. "You already filed?" "Yes." "You didn't even argue with me." "I don't need to." "Don't you hate me?" I took a slow breath. "No. That hurts even more." "I know." Tears rolled down her face. "I threw everything away." "You did." "I thought Ryan loved me. He loved what he could gain." She covered her face. "I'm so sorry." I believe you. Can you forgive me? One day. And us. There is no us anymore. She stood silently before walking toward the door. Just before leaving, she whispered, I finally understand what I lost. After she left, I looked out the office window. I felt sadness, not victory. Revenge would have lasted only a moment, but peace would last much longer. For the first time in years, I knew I had chosen the stronger path, and that choice finally set my heart free forever. 3 months passed before the divorce became official. When I walked out of the courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in years. I had not won anything. I had simply stopped carrying a life that no longer belonged to me. My phone rang. It was Olivia. How are you holding up? I'm breathing easier. That's a good start. She laughed softly. I'll take that as progress. It is. Are you coming back to the office? In an hour. I'll have the quarterly reports ready. Thank you. When I arrived, Olivia was already waiting outside my office. Good morning, Mr. Carter. You've earned the right to call me Ethan. She smiled. Only during private conversations. Fair enough. We entered together. She handed me several reports. You'll like these. I opened the first folder. Revenue is improving by 18%. The new policies are working. So is employee morale. I looked up. People finally trust management. They trust you. I shook my head. They trust fairness. Olivia smiled. That's exactly why they trust you. Before I could answer, my assistant knocked. Mr. Carter, come in. A visitor is asking to see you. Who? Sophia Carter. Silence filled the room. Olivia looked at me. You don't have to meet her. I thought for several seconds. No, I don't have to. She nodded. But I will. Olivia quietly stood. I'll give you privacy. Thank you. A moment later, Sophia entered my office. She looked different. Her expensive clothes were gone. Her confident smile had disappeared. She held an old photograph carefully in both hands. I recognized it immediately. Our wedding day. She stopped in front of my desk. I won't stay long. I remained standing. What do you need? She looked down at the picture. I found this while packing. I said nothing. I almost threw it away. But you didn't. No. She held it toward me. Do you remember this day? I remember every promise. Fresh tears filled her eyes. So do I. She placed the photograph on my desk. I broke every one. I looked at the smiling couple in the picture. For a moment, I barely recognized the man I used to be. Sophia took a deep breath. I heard about Ryan. He has lawyers. He also left me. I wasn't surprised. He said my problems were ruining his future. She laughed bitterly. I guess that's what I deserve. I answered honestly. Ryan loved success. He never loved me. No. She wiped away another tear. I thought I understood love. And now I know I never did. The office remained quiet. Finally, she whispered, I came because I owed you the truth. I folded my hands and waited. For the first time since our marriage began falling apart, she wasn't trying to defend herself. She simply wanted me to hear her heart. I looked at Sophia without speaking. She took a slow breath and wiped her eyes before continuing. I confused wealth with happiness, she said. I remained silent. I confused attention with love. She lowered her head. I confused respect with fear. My chest tightened, but I refused to interrupt. I kept believing that a richer life would make me happier. And did it? No. What did it give you? Loneliness. She looked around my office. I thought becoming the CEO's wife would make me important. You already mattered. I couldn't see that. You stopped looking. She nodded. I did. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she asked quietly, Can I ask you one question? You can. Did you ever stop loving me? I answered honestly. I stopped hoping. She closed her eyes. That hurts. It hurt me first. I know. She pointed toward our wedding photograph. The man in that picture would have forgiven me. Yes. What changed? I did. You're stronger now. I finally respect myself. She smiled sadly. I wish I had understood that before. So do I. She picked up the photograph and held it against her chest. I won't bother you again. I appreciate that. She walked toward the door, then stopped. I truly am sorry, Ethan. I believe you. Thank you. She left without looking back. I stood quietly until Olivia knocked. May I come in? Yes. She entered carefully. Is everything all right? It will be. She noticed the empty space where the photograph had been. She took it. Yes. Was that difficult? It was necessary. Olivia sat across from me. You handled it with kindness. I wasn't trying to be kind. What were you trying to be? Honest. She smiled. That may be even better. Later that afternoon, we walked through several departments together. Employees greeted us warmly. One supervisor smiled. Thank you for listening to our ideas. You're welcome, another employee added. This company finally feels different. I glanced at Olivia. We're only getting started. She nodded. We'll rebuild it together. As the weeks passed, profits continued rising, waste disappeared, and trust returned. Every improvement reminded me that leadership was never about titles. It was about serving people fairly, even when nobody was watching. One evening, Olivia joined me on the rooftop terrace after work. You look thoughtful. I've been thinking about success, and it feels strangely empty by itself. She leaned against the railing. What makes it meaningful? Peace. She smiled. I hoped you'd say that. I spent years judging myself by other people's opinions. And now I judge people by honesty instead of appearances. She looked toward the sunset. That's the best decision you've made. I smiled for the first time that day. So do I. As we stood together in comfortable silence, I realized my greatest achievement was never becoming CEO. It was becoming someone who no longer needed wealth, revenge, or another person's approval to know my own worth. That understanding gave me a peace no promotion could ever buy, and I knew I would never lose it again. Ever. 1 year passed faster than I ever imagined. Every morning, I walked into Carter Group with confidence instead of doubt. The company was stronger, employees smiled more often, and every department worked together instead of competing against each other. I no longer measured success by profit alone. I measured it by the people who trusted me. One Friday afternoon, Olivia entered my office carrying a folder. Ready for tonight? The charity gala? She nodded. Everything is prepared. How many guests? Nearly 400. I smiled. That's better than I expected. She laughed. You always expect the worst. I prefer pleasant surprises. You've changed. I hope that's a compliment. It definitely is. I stood and picked up my jacket. Let's make sure the event helps the people who need it. That's exactly why everyone respects you. An hour later, we arrived at the hotel ballroom. Volunteers welcomed guests while musicians played quietly in the background. Olivia looked around proudly. You built all this. We built it. She smiled. I appreciate hearing that. The evening passed smoothly. I greeted business partners, donors, and employees without thinking about titles or status. Near the entrance, I noticed a familiar face. Sophia. She wore a simple blue dress instead of the expensive designer clothes she once loved. She waited until the crowd became smaller before walking toward me. Hello, Ethan. Hello, Sophia. I wasn't sure you would speak to me. I don't see a reason to be rude. She nodded slowly. You've changed too. I've had time. I heard the company donated scholarships. We did. And hospitals. Yes. She smiled faintly. You always wanted to help people. I finally had the chance. She looked around quietly. I work in a neighborhood bookstore now. How is it? Peaceful. I'm glad. She laughed softly. I never thought I would say that. What changed? I stopped chasing things that never loved me back. I understood exactly what she meant. She looked into my eyes. I don't expect anything today. I know. I only wanted one conversation. You have it. She took a slow breath. I spent months blaming Ryan. And now I blame myself. I remained silent. I made every choice. Yes, I ignored your kindness because it wasn't expensive. Her voice trembled. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I answered honestly. I regretted it too. She looked surprised. You did. I regretted losing the woman I thought I married. She lowered her head. She disappeared a long time ago. No. She looked back at me. What do you mean? I think she simply lost her way. Tears filled her eyes again. I wish I had found my way sooner. So do I. For several quiet moments, neither of us spoke. The music continued playing, guests laughed nearby, and I realized the pain between us had finally become a memory instead of an open wound. I felt no anger, only gratitude for the lessons that had changed my life forever. Sophia looked at me one final time before speaking again. I'll use something. You don't owe me anything. I do. She wiped away another tear. I'm sorry. I know. No excuses. I appreciate that. I betrayed your trust. Yes. I chased money instead of character. You did. I confused your silence with weakness. I smiled gently. That was your biggest mistake. She nodded. I understand that now. She reached into her purse and removed a small envelope. I wrote you a letter. You should keep it. Why? Because you already said everything that mattered. She looked at the envelope, then slowly slipped it back into her purse. I suppose you're right. She offered a small, genuine smile. I hope your future is everything you deserve. Thank you. And Olivia? I glanced toward the ballroom. She deserves happiness too. I hope you don't let fear stop you again. I won't. She nodded once more. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Sophia. She walked away without looking back. This time, neither of us stopped. A few minutes later, Olivia joined me on the balcony overlooking the city lights. I saw her leave. Yes. How are you feeling? Lighter. She leaned against the railing. You finally have closure. I think I do. The evening breeze carried the sounds of laughter from the ballroom below. Olivia smiled. You built something wonderful. I didn't build it alone. You still refuse to take full credit. I never wanted a company built around one person. What did you want? A place where honesty mattered more than titles. She nodded. I believe you've done that. I looked across the skyline. A year ago, I thought becoming CEO would solve every problem. And now I know it solved very few. What solved the rest? I smiled, learning to respect myself before asking anyone else to respect me. Olivia looked at me with quiet admiration. That may be the wisest thing I've ever heard you say. I learned it the hard way. Sometimes those lessons last the longest. We stood together in comfortable silence. For the first time in many years, I wasn't thinking about betrayal, revenge, or proving anyone wrong. I was simply grateful. Grateful that my grandfather believed in me before I believed in myself. Grateful that honest people like Olivia reminded me that integrity still existed. Grateful that even painful endings could create better beginnings. I realized karma had never needed my anger or my revenge. It simply arrived when people faced the consequences of their own choices. As for me, I had already moved forward long before those consequences reached them. I took one last look across the city. My greatest victory, I said quietly, was never becoming the CEO. Olivia smiled. I know. It was becoming the man who no longer needed someone else's approval to know his own worth. She nodded. And that's the man everyone respects today. I smiled as the lights of the city stretched into the distance. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing success, love, or acceptance. I had finally found peace within myself, and no one could ever take that away from me again. That was the real victory. The rest had simply been the journey.